Vincent Harrington stood motionless before the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse apartment, watching the city below transform into a winter wonderland. Snowflakes danced through the amber glow of streetlights while families hurried home with wrapped packages and bright smiles. From 40 stories up, their joy looked distant and meaningless. He took another sip of his bourbon, feeling the liquid burn down his throat without bringing any warmth. Christmas Eve, the night everyone celebrated connection, family, and love. 3 things Vincent had systematically removed from his life over the past 15 years. His reflection in the glass showed a man who looked older than his 38 years. Sharp features, perfectly tailored suit, everything about him screamed success and control. Yet his gray eyes held something else entirely: emptiness, an unexpected voice. The sound of footsteps made him turn slightly. Most of the staff had left hours ago, eager to join their families. He had insisted everyone leave early, preferring the silence to forced pleasantries. "Mr. Harrington, I finished cleaning your office." Rosalie Martinez stood in the hallway entrance, her cleaning cart beside her. She wore her usual simple uniform, but had added a small Santa hat that looked absurdly cheerful. Her dark eyes sparkled with genuine warmth as she smiled at him. Vincent nodded curtly. "Thank you, Miss Martinez. You should head home now." She did not move. Instead, she studied him with an expression he could not quite read. "Pity? Concern?" He disliked both options. "You are spending tonight alone?" Her accent carried the gentle rhythm of her Colombian heritage. "I prefer it that way," Vincent replied, turning back to the window. Solitude allows for clear thinking. Rosalie stepped closer, and he heard the rustle of her coat as she prepared to leave. But she paused again. "My grandfather always says that a man who chooses to be alone on Christmas is not seeking clarity. He is running from something." Vincent felt irritation flare. "Your grandfather does not know me." "No, but I work here 6 months now. I see you every day." Her voice remained gentle, not challenging. "You have everything. Beautiful home, successful business, respect from everyone. But you look like the saddest person I ever meet." The observation struck deeper than he cared to admit. Vincent set his glass down with deliberate care. "Miss Martinez, I appreciate your concern, but my personal life is not your business." "You are right. I am sorry." She adjusted her bag on her shoulder. "But I have to tell you something before I go. My family, we are having dinner tonight. Nothing fancy, just food and talking and laughing. My grandfather, he cooks the best tamales in New York. We have too much food, always too much." Vincent finally turned to face her fully. "What are you suggesting?" "Come have dinner with us." The invitation came out simple and direct, as if she had asked him to pass the salt. Nobody should eat alone on Christmas. For a moment, Vincent could only stare at her. In his world, every invitation came with strings attached. Business opportunities, social climbing, networking. But Rosalie's open expression held none of those calculations. "That would not be appropriate," he managed. "Why?" She tilted her head. "Because I clean your office? Because my family is not rich? Or because you are afraid?" "I am not afraid of anything." "Then prove it." Her smile widened. "Dinner is at 8. We live in the Bronx on Westchester Avenue, the blue house with the broken fence. You cannot miss it because my cousin parks his terrible truck in front." The weight of silence after Rosalie left. Vincent stood in the expanding silence of his penthouse. The heating system hummed. The city below continued its celebration without him. His phone sat dark on the marble counter. No messages, no calls. He walked through his apartment, each room perfectly decorated by an expensive interior designer. Everything matched. Everything looked like it belonged in a magazine. Nothing looked like anyone actually lived there. In his bedroom, he opened the closet and found himself staring at rows of identical suits. When had he last worn anything else? When had he last done anything spontaneous? The image of Rosalie's face kept returning. That genuine smile, the warmth in her eyes when she spoke about her family. She had nothing compared to his wealth, yet she seemed infinitely richer in ways that mattered. Vincent checked his watch. 7:15. He could stay here, order something from the 5-star restaurant downstairs, spend the evening reviewing quarterly reports. Safe, predictable, lonely, or he could do something completely insane. The drive to another world at 7:40. Vincent found himself behind the wheel of his Mercedes, driving through neighborhoods he never visited. The GPS guided him away from Manhattan's gleaming towers toward streets lined with modest homes and small businesses. He felt ridiculous. A man of his position driving to the Bronx on Christmas Eve to have dinner with his cleaning lady's family. If his business associates knew, they would question his judgment. If Claire Winters found out, she would never let him forget it. But something inside him, some part he thought had died years ago, pushed him forward. The blue house appeared exactly as Rosalie described. The fence did lean at an odd angle, and a pickup truck that had seen better days sat in front. Warm light glowed from every window. He could hear music and laughter even from the street. Vincent parked and sat in his car for 5 minutes, his hands gripping the steering wheel. This was his last chance to leave, to return to his cold but comfortable isolation. Instead, he opened the door and stepped into the snow. The front door opened before he could knock. Rosalie stood there still wearing her Santa hat, her face lighting up with surprise and delight. "Mr. Harrington, you came!" "I must be losing my mind," he muttered. She laughed and grabbed his arm, pulling him inside. Come, come. You are just in time. Grandfather just finished the tamales." The moment Vincent stepped inside, the warmth hit him like a physical force. Not just the temperature, but something deeper. The small living room overflowed with life in a way his penthouse never had. Children laughed while chasing each other around a worn sofa. A woman sang along to Spanish Christmas music playing from an old radio. The scent of spices, roasted meat, and fresh bread filled every corner. Vincent stood frozen in the doorway, suddenly aware of how out of place he looked in his expensive coat and polished shoes. "Everyone, we have a special guest," Rosalie announced, her voice cutting through the cheerful chaos. The room fell silent. 7 pairs of eyes turned to stare at him. Vincent recognized the look. These people knew who he was, what he represented. The man who owned the building where Rosalie worked. The wealthy outsider in their humble home. An elderly man rose from a rocking chair near the kitchen entrance. His weathered face carried deep lines that spoke of hard years and harder work, but his brown eyes held unmistakable kindness. He walked toward Vincent with steady steps, his hand extended. "Welcome to our home, Mr. Harrington. I am Miguel Martinez, the grandfather Rosalie mentioned. Please, you honor us with your presence." Vincent shook his hand, surprised by the firm grip and genuine warmth. "Thank you for having me. I hope my arrival does not disrupt your celebration," Miguel smiled. "On Christmas, there is always room for one more, especially one who needs family." Breaking down, Walls Rosalie took Vincent's coat and guided him to the dinner table, which had been extended with folding chairs and covered with a mismatched collection of plates and glasses. Nothing matched, yet everything felt perfectly arranged. "Sit here next to me," Rosalie said, pulling out a chair. "This way I can translate if my Aunt Carmen starts telling stories. She forgets her English when she gets excited." As Vincent sat, a young boy around 8 years old appeared at his elbow, staring up at him with wide eyes. "Are you really a millionaire?" the boy asked in a loud whisper. "Mateo!" Rosalie's face flushed with embarrassment. "That is rude." But Vincent found himself smiling, a real smile that felt strange on his face. "I have been fortunate in business, yes." "Do you have a helicopter?" Mateo's eyes grew wider. "No helicopter. Just a very boring car." "Oh." The boy looked disappointed for a moment, then brightened. "Do you want to see my robot? I built it from a kit." Before Vincent could respond, a woman's voice called from the kitchen. "Mateo, leave our guest alone. Come help bring the food." The boy scampered away, and Vincent felt the tension in his shoulders ease slightly. These people did not treat him like a symbol of wealth and power. They simply saw him as a person who had walked through their door. The feast begins. Miguel sat at the head of the table and raised his hands. The room quieted instantly. "Before we eat, we give thanks," he said in accented but clear English. "We thank God for this food, for this family, and for bringing new friends to share our table. We remember those who are not with us, and we celebrate those who are. Amen." A chorus of amen followed, and then the table exploded into motion. Platters passed from hand to hand. Tamales, rice, beans, roasted chicken, fresh tortillas, and half a dozen dishes Vincent could not identify but suddenly wanted to taste. Rosalie served him generous portions of everything, narrating each dish with enthusiasm. "This is my Aunt Carmen's mole sauce. She makes it from 17 different ingredients. And these tamales, grandfather's secret recipe. He will not even tell me how to make them." Vincent took a bite of the tamale and paused. The flavors were complex, perfectly balanced, nothing like the generic versions he had tried at corporate events. This was food made with care, with tradition, with love. "This is exceptional," he said to Miguel. The old man's face crinkled with pleasure. "My wife taught me this recipe 50 years ago. Every time I make it, I remember her hands showing me how to spread the masa just right. Food is memory, Mr. Harrington. Every bite should tell a story." Stories around the table as dinner progressed. The conversation flowed like a river. Stories tumbled over each other, some in English, some in Spanish, all punctuated with laughter and playful arguments. Carmen told about the time she accidentally dyed all the family's clothes pink in the laundry. Mateo described his school play where he played a dancing snowflake. A teenage girl named Sophia complained about her boyfriend with such dramatic flair that even Vincent found himself chuckling. He realized something startling. For the first time in years, he felt relaxed. No one wanted anything from him. No one tried to impress him or manipulate him. They simply included him in their celebration as if he belonged there. "Mr. Harrington, Rosalie tells us you run a big company," Miguel said during a lull in the conversation. "That must be very demanding work." "It is," Vincent admitted. "Though sometimes I wonder if demanding is just another word for consuming." Miguel nodded thoughtfully. "A wise man knows the difference between building an empire and building a life. One gives you power, the other gives you purpose." The words settled over Vincent like snow. How long had it been since anyone spoke to him with such directness, such honesty? "I have spent 15 years building my empire," Vincent said quietly. "I am not sure I remember how to build anything else." Rosalie touched his arm gently. "Then maybe it is time to learn." The gift of presents, after dinner, the family moved to the living room. The children performed an impromptu nativity play using kitchen towels as costumes and stuffed animals as the stable creatures. It was chaotic and unrehearsed, and Vincent could not remember the last time he had seen something so genuine. Miguel brought out a guitar and began playing traditional songs. Some people sang along, others simply swayed to the music. Rosalie handed Vincent a cup of hot chocolate topped with cinnamon. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. "I know this is very different from your usual Christmas." Vincent watched Mateo trying to teach Sophia a complicated handshake while Carmen argued with another aunt about the proper way to make flan. The apartment was small and crowded. The furniture was old. By every measure he had used for years, this was nothing compared to what he had. Yet here, surrounded by people who had so little, he felt something he had not experienced in over a decade. He felt happy. "Different is good," he said, meeting Rosalie's eyes. "Thank you for inviting me," she smiled. "Grandfather always says the best gifts cannot be wrapped in paper." As midnight approached, Miguel raised his hand for attention. "It is time for our family tradition. Each person shares one thing they are grateful for this year." One by one, people spoke. Carmen thanked God for her health. Mateo thanked his teacher for being patient. Sophia thanked her parents for understanding her dreams. When the turn reached Vincent, all eyes turned to him expectantly. His throat tightened. What could he possibly say? That he was grateful for his wealth? His success? Those words felt hollow in this room. "I am grateful," he began slowly, "for the reminder that wealth means nothing without people to share it with, and for the kindness of strangers who welcomed me when I did not deserve it." Rosalie squeezed his hand under the table. The return to reality. At 1 a.m, Vincent finally prepared to leave. The children had fallen asleep in various corners, and the adults were cleaning up the remnants of the celebration. Miguel walked him to the door, his hand on Vincent's shoulder. "You are welcome here any time." Mr. Harrington, not because of what you have, but because of who you can become. Vincent felt something crack inside his chest. I do not understand. You will, Miguel said with knowing eyes. Sometimes we must lose ourselves completely before we can find who we were meant to be. Rosalie appeared with his coat. Outside, snow had begun falling again, covering the street in fresh white. Will I see you again? Vincent asked, surprising himself with the vulnerability in his voice. I work Monday through Friday, she said with a teasing smile. Unless you fire me for being too forward with my boss. Never. The word came out more intense than he intended. As Vincent drove back to Manhattan, his phone buzzed with messages. Business emergencies, investor concerns, the usual crisis that defined his life. But for once, they felt distant and unimportant. Something had shifted inside him. The walls he had built so carefully over 15 years had developed cracks. And through those cracks, light was beginning to seep in. He did not know yet that his entire world was about to be transformed by a secret that connected him to Rosalie, in ways neither of them could imagine. Monday. Morning arrived with the kind of gray sky that matched Vincent's mood. He sat in his office reviewing contracts, but his mind kept drifting back to Christmas Eve. The warmth of that small house, Miguel's wisdom, Rosalie's infectious laughter. It all felt like a dream now, disconnected from his sterile corporate reality. His assistant knocked on the door. Mr. Harrington, there is someone here to see you. He does not have an appointment, but he insists it is urgent. He says his name is Thomas Harrington. Vincent's pen slipped from his fingers. Thomas Harrington, a name he had not heard spoken aloud in 15 years. A name that carried the weight of abandonment, betrayal, and a childhood spent wondering why he was not enough. My father is here. His voice came out flat, emotionless. He is waiting in the lobby. Should I send him away? Vincent wanted to say yes. Every instinct screamed to avoid this confrontation, but curiosity won over self-preservation. Send him up, and hold all my calls. 5 minutes later, Thomas Harrington walked through the door. He looked smaller than Vincent remembered. The man who had once seemed larger than life now appeared weathered and tired. His hair had gone completely white, and he walked with a slight limp. But his eyes, those same gray eyes Vincent saw in his own reflection, still held fierce intelligence. Hello, son. Vincent remained seated, refusing to offer even the basic courtesy of standing. You have exactly 5 minutes to explain why you are here after 15 years of silence. The truth. Unveiled, Thomas lowered himself into the chair across from Vincent's desk. I know you hate me. You have every right to, but I need to tell you something before it is too late. Too late? Vincent's jaw tightened. You walked out when I was 12 years old. You left Mom and me with nothing. What could possibly be urgent now? I am dying, Vincent. Pancreatic cancer. The doctors give me 3 months, maybe 4. Thomas said it without self-pity, just stating a fact. Vincent felt nothing, or he told himself he felt nothing. And you thought I would care? No, I hoped you might listen. Thomas pulled an envelope from his coat pocket. This contains information about why I left. The real reason, not the story you were told. I do not want your explanations or your excuses. This is not about excuses. It is about Rosalie Martinez. The name hit Vincent like ice water. He leaned forward sharply. What did you just say? Thomas's expression softened. I know you spent Christmas with her family. I know because I have been watching over them for years. Vincent, Rosalie is your half-sister. The office seemed to tilt. Vincent gripped the edge of his desk, his knuckles turning white. That is impossible. 26 years ago, I had an affair. Her name was Isabella Martinez. She worked as a translator at one of my business conferences in Colombia. It was brief, but she became pregnant. Thomas's voice cracked slightly. When she told me, I panicked. Your mother had just given birth to you. My company was struggling. I made the worst decision of my life. I paid Isabella to disappear and never contact me again. Vincent stood abruptly, his chair rolling backward. You are lying. I wish I were. Thomas opened the envelope and spread documents across the desk. Birth certificates, DNA test results, photographs of a young woman holding a baby girl. Isabella died 5 years ago. Before she passed, she made her father Miguel promise never to reveal who Rosalie's father was. She wanted to protect her daughter from the shame of being the unwanted child of a married man. The world collapses. Vincent stared at the documents, his mind refusing to process what he was seeing. Rosalie's birth certificate listed father as unknown, but the DNA test, dated just 3 months ago, showed a 99.9% probability of sibling relationship between Vincent Harrington and Rosalie Martinez. How did you get her DNA? Vincent's voice sounded distant to his own ears. I hired a private investigator. He obtained samples from her workplace. Thomas looked ashamed. I know it was wrong, but I needed to be certain before I told you. Does she know? No, Miguel kept his promise to Isabella. As far as Rosalie knows, her father was a man who disappeared before she was born. She has no idea about me or about you. Vincent sank back into his chair, his entire body numb. The woman who had shown him kindness, who had invited him into her home, who had made him feel human again, was his sister. His sister! Why are you telling me this now? He whispered. Because I am dying and someone needs to take care of her. Thomas leaned forward. Vincent, I failed as a father twice. I abandoned you. And I denied Rosalie before she even took her first breath. But you have the chance to do what I never could. You can be the family she deserves. She does not know me. She works as my cleaning lady, for God's sake. Vincent's voice rose. Do you have any idea how this will look? How this will change everything? That is exactly why Miguel never told her. He knew people would judge, would assume the worst. Thomas stood slowly, painfully. But she deserves to know the truth. And you deserve to have a family again. The confrontation. After Thomas left, Vincent sat in his office for hours, unable to move or think clearly. Everything he thought he knew had shifted. Every interaction with Rosalie replayed in his mind with new, disturbing context. The way she had looked at him with such openness, the easy comfort between them. Had some part of them recognized their connection without knowing why? His phone buzzed. A text from Rosalie. Thank you again for coming to dinner. Grandfather says you are welcome any time. I hope you had a good Christmas. Vincent stared at the message until his vision blurred. How could he respond? What could he possibly say? A knock interrupted his spiral. Rosalie herself stood in the doorway, her cleaning cart beside her, her smile as bright as always. Mr. Harrington, I did not expect to see you still here so late. Are you feeling okay? You look pale. He could not do this. Could not pretend everything was normal when his entire world had been turned inside out. Rosalie, sit down, please. Her smile faded, replaced by concern. Is something wrong? Did I do something inappropriate on Christmas? I know I was too forward inviting you like that. No, you did nothing wrong. Vincent rubbed his face, exhaustion and emotion overwhelming him. But I need to tell you something, and I need you to listen carefully. The revelation, over the next hour, Vincent explained everything. He showed her the documents, the photographs, the DNA results. He watched her face transform from confusion to disbelief to shock. Rosalie sat frozen, her hands trembling as she held her mother's photograph. My mother never told me. All these years she said my father was someone who could not stay. I thought he did not want me. He did not, Vincent said quietly. But that was his failure, not yours. Tears streamed down her face. And you are my brother? Half-brother. But yes. She looked up at him, her eyes searching his face as if seeing him for the first time. That is why I felt so comfortable with you. Why inviting you felt natural instead of strange. Vincent nodded. I think some part of us knew, even if we did not understand it. Rosalie stood and walked to the window, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Vincent wanted to comfort her, but did not know how. This woman who had shown him such kindness was now facing the same abandonment he had experienced as a child. What happens now? She asked, her voice small. Vincent stood and crossed the room to stand beside her. That depends on what you want. We can keep this quiet if you prefer, or we can acknowledge the truth and deal with whatever comes. She turned to face him fully. I have spent my whole life wondering where I came from, who I was supposed to be. And now I find out I have a brother. Fresh tears fell. A brother who is kind and lonely and just as lost as me. Something broke inside Vincent's chest. Without thinking, he pulled her into an embrace. She collapsed against him, crying for the father they both lost. For the years they could have known each other, for the strange and beautiful connection they had stumbled into by accident. "I am sorry," Vincent whispered. "I am so sorry for what he did to you, to your mother." "It is not your fault." Rosalie pulled back, wiping her eyes. "You did not know. Neither of us knew." A new beginning Miguel arrived at the office an hour later, summoned by Rosalie's tearful phone call. The old man looked at Vincent with knowing eyes. "You found out," Miguel said simply. "You knew?" Vincent's voice held no accusation, only weariness. "I promised Isabella I would never tell Rosalie who her father was, but I never promised not to recognize you when you walked through my door." Miguel sat down heavily. "When Rosalie said she wanted to invite her boss to Christmas dinner, I saw your photograph online. I knew immediately who you were. You have your father's eyes. Why did you let me come? Why welcome me into your home? Because I have watched Rosalie her whole life wondering about the family she lost. And I have watched you through news articles, seeing the same loneliness in your success that I saw in your father's failures." Miguel's voice grew gentle. "I thought perhaps God brought you together for a reason. Two broken pieces of the same family, finding each other on the one night when miracles are supposed to happen." Rosalie sat beside her grandfather, taking his weathered hand. "Did my mother ever regret not telling me? Every single day. But she loved you too much to burden you with the shame she carried. She wanted you to be proud of who you were, not defined by who your father was not." Vincent felt the weight of generations of secrets and pain pressing down on him. But beneath that weight, something else grew. Hope. "I want to make this right," Vincent said firmly. "I cannot change the past, but I can change what happens next. Rosalie, you are my sister. That means something. That should mean everything." The promise over the following weeks, Vincent and Rosalie began the complicated process of becoming family. They met for coffee, shared stories about their vastly different childhoods, and discovered surprising similarities. They both loved old movies and hated mornings. They both used humor to deflect when emotions ran too deep. Vincent established a trust fund for Rosalie, not as charity, but as her rightful inheritance from a father who had failed them both. He also invested in her dream of opening a cafe, insisting she name it Isabella's, in honor of the mother who had sacrificed everything to give her a good life. Thomas Harrington passed away 6 weeks after his confession. Both Vincent and Rosalie attended the funeral, standing together as the family he had destroyed, and then, in his final act, tried to rebuild. At the cemetery, as snow began to fall, Rosalie took Vincent's hand. "Do you think he found peace?" she asked. Vincent looked at their intertwined fingers, at the sister he never knew he had, at the unexpected family that had emerged from years of secrets and pain. "I think he gave us the chance to find ours." Epilogue. 1 year later. Isabella. His cafe opened on a crisp autumn morning in a renovated brownstone in Brooklyn. The space glowed with warmth and welcomed everyone who entered. Miguel's tamale recipe became the signature dish, and every table held fresh flowers and genuine smiles. Vincent stopped by every Sunday morning, no longer the isolated millionaire, but a brother who had found his way home. He sat at the corner table drinking coffee that Rosalie made too strong, and listening to Miguel's stories. One Sunday, a young couple entered, clearly nervous about their shabby clothes in the charming cafe. Rosalie greeted them with her characteristic warmth. "Welcome. First time here? Sit anywhere you like. The coffee is on the house today." Vincent watched his sister. This remarkable woman who had saved him without even knowing she was family, and felt gratitude flood through him. Sometimes the greatest gifts come wrapped in secrets. Sometimes you have to lose everything to find what truly matters. And sometimes a simple invitation to Christmas dinner can change 2 lives forever. The cold-hearted billionaire who hated Christmas had finally learned what the holiday really meant. Family was not about blood or money or perfection. It was about showing up, opening your heart, and letting yourself be loved by the people brave enough to see you for who you really are. and as snow began to fall outside the cafe windows, Vincent Harrington smiled, truly smiled, surrounded by the family he had found in the most unexpected way possible.